Maybe you know that there's more. Maybe you know that God has like created you for so much more. Created you for for this life that's just more full and more whole and more real than the one you're living right now. Maybe you know that He's got this destiny for you and these plans for you. He wants to do so much with you and in you and like, but you're not gonna. See, the thing is, you're not gonna discover it back there. You know, like it's not how God works. Like He calls us. He calls us to step out. He calls us to take risks. You know, like He calls us to face. He calls us into the pain. You know, He calls us into the fear, into those like unknown areas. He calls us into the hurt and the fear and like all those nasty things that stop us from becoming the people we want to be. He calls us into them. Like there's this psalm that talks about how God like leads and God provides, and the psalmist in one verse writes, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Like his psalmist is like saying, man, I am going through some major stuff here. He's saying like what I'm going through here, it's like so close to death. So close. It's like the shadow of death. Like it's so hard, so terrible, but he says, you know, like even though like what I'm going through is so bad, I know that you're with me. Like I was talking to this person a while back, and the way they were talking, it was clear that they had this idea that like God is only with them in the good times, and when in the bad times, I know He was just like somewhere else. Like God is always with you. Like God is always with you. When God calls you to step out and to face your fears and to face those pains and to work through that stuff and to take those risks, and like He's there. Like He's always there. He's always there. Like He's there to comfort you. He's there to guide you. He's always with you. Now the next verse in this psalm, after talking about like this shadow of death, you know, the next verse is about, it says, you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Like this psalmist has just finished talking about like how his life is so crappy and so hard that it's like it's almost death. And then he says, but you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Like it's, like you might be, like God calls us into stuff and it might feel like it's like so hard and so painful and so hurtful, but when you get on the other side, it's like this idea of a cup overflowing. You anoint, like the psalmist said, you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. This idea of a cup overflowing is like, the cup is like life, and overflowing is like blessings and happiness and fulfillment and peace and just everything good that God can give. And it's like, yeah, I've walked through the valley of the shadow of death, but on the other side, it is beautiful. It is amazing. My cup overflows. My life is so fulfilled. My life is so right. So amazingly good, right? My life is how God wants it to be. God anoints my head with oil. Check this out. It's like God gives us these desires in our hearts because He knows what we're capable of. He knows what we can do. He knows who we can become, and like He wants us to step out and trust Him in that, and grow with Him in that. Like man, we've all got our hurts and our fears and our insecurities and our brokenness, and if we let that kind of trap us and scare us for life, then we'll never do anything. We'll never become the person God created us to be. We'll just be stuck in this place being controlled by these fears, which God is so much bigger than. Like guys, don't miss the opportunities when God calls you out and calls you to like overcome something, or to work through something. Like, don't miss that. Don't deny God the pleasure of shaping you and growing you and working in you, and don't deny yourself the pleasure of like discovering what's on the other side. Like, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Don't be stuck back there like wondering what if. But take the risk. God is with you. He comforts you. He is there with you. Like, don't ever forget that. And don't ever shy back from what He puts on your heart. From what those feelings, those like God moments when He calls you out. Don't ever forget that, hey, because that is what God created us for, to become more and more alive and full and rich, and like the psalm says, like, to have our cups overflowing, our life overflowing with the goodness that God wants to give us. And this is my tree that I found when I just like took a bit of effort and followed the promptings that God gives me. This is the view. I sit on this tree here and like I have this view up the stream, and this is what God, the spiderweb back there, this is what God called me to, just this time with Him, and like, so beautiful. I love it. Don't miss what God wants to do with you, where He wants to take you, how He wants to shape you, how He wants to grow you. Like, it's an amazing and beautiful journey. Don't miss out.